think of clouds. Sometimes they seem to block the sky, and sometimes they're the sky themselves. And today we're talking about the mask of God, ways that it's hidden, and is some wonder if there's anything behind the mask, or whether the mask is different in one country than the other. It's hard to know. And we're going to have a sermon of singing and plays and a little bit of talking. So I want you to join with me for the first verse that we'll be singing. And it's to the tune of Amazing Grace, and you can remain seated as we sing. And just follow my lead and my unique phrasing. Oh, who has seen the face of God, or heard the voice divine? You'll find it where you seek it not, at unexpected time. This first story, as our Bible story people will know, is from Numbers 22. It's about Balaam and a donkey, and Pam will introduce the kids and get them lined up, and we will do this story for you.
I'd like to introduce Charles Sterner, Meredith Lowe, Greg Racono, and Stephen Jones as we perform Balaam and the Donkey.
Okay, right there is good, Charlie. A long time ago, when Moses was leading Israel towards the promised land, they camped outside the kingdom of Moab. And the king of Moab, King Balak, saw them and said,
I must call Balaam the prophet to curse these people so I can defeat them in war.
And so messengers were sent to Balaam, and they told him to come visit King Balak so he could curse the Israelites. So he loads up his donkey and starts on his journey. But his donkey would not move, so Balaam yelled at his donkey,
"Stupid donkey, why don't you move?"
The donkey still refused to move, and he said again,
"Stupid donkey, why don't you move?"
He was very surprised when the donkey replied.
"What are you, blind? There's an angel on the road."
Now, Balaam did not see the angel at first. He was so surprised by a donkey that he did not try to understand what he was saying. But then the angel appeared to him and said,
You should listen to your donkey. God is on the side of the people that you are about to curse. Instead of cursing them, you should bless them.
So Balaam and the donkey went to Balak and said,
I bless the people of Israel.
But I want you to curse them.
Don't blame me. I am just the messenger.
In the story of Balaam and the donkey, we see people searching for access to God. Balak the king wants to use the prophet to control God to his own advantage. And Balaam thinks he can do this. Apparently he's had some success doing this type of thing before. Yet both are blind to the situation. Only the donkey can see the angel at first. Sometimes the holy is hidden from us. Where is the power and meaning of life? We assume it might be in the people of political power, and sometimes we make the wild assumption that it might be in the professional religious types. but those can be masks that hide reality as much as point to it. We must be open to the unexpected. We may never encounter a talking donkey, but there are times in each of our lives when the mask is lifted and our vision is clear and we can see what we need to do. We see clearly the world around us and what it demands of us. Our higher purpose may be revealed to us in low places. The holy is all around us, wearing many masks. We can seek and we can find. Yet other times, we forget that the holy lies within us. And at this point, I want to go to verse 2 of our song. Your deepest thought and highest truth, and love that will forgive, might be God inside of you, inspiring you to live. And now we're going to hear a story from the Hindu tradition.
I'd like to introduce myself and Greg Ricono and Katie Barrett to do the Krishna, Balarama, and Kaliya.
Back in India, a long time ago, there were two brothers, Krishna and Balarama. Now, like all brothers, they had their differences, but they had a difference that was greater than most. Balarama was an ordinary boy, and Krishna was a god. I imagine that made supper hour kind of confusing at times. One day they were playing by the river, and everybody started running out of the water. Krishna looked in the water and saw a giant snake that had many heads named Kaliya. And Kaliya said, "This is beginning to be mean." So Krishna went into the water and started to fight Kaliya, the giant snake. But the snake was strong and was winning. And Balarama watched from the riverbank and said,
Krishna, don't forget, you're God, use your power.
And then Krishna started winning. And Krishna was about to kill Kaliya when the snake said,
Oh, great God, how can you kill me?
You were about to poison the people and about to kill me.
But it was you, oh God, who gave me the gifts of strength and poison.
And when he heard this, Krishna knew it was wrong to kill Kaliya, so he made the serpent live in the ocean instead of the river. This story says, be true to yourself and let others be true to themselves. In Hinduism, the gods often appear in human form, and they're called avatars, and Krishna was one of these. But he enjoyed playing and laughing with his brother, and they weren't necessarily good kids. They often played pranks, and Krishna loved butter, and he would often steal it. They lived a very careless and kind of boy-type life. But when the crisis came, he sprang into action. He went into the river to battle the snake. It was something he had to do. He did not think about why. He just tried to correct the evil he perceived. And he was failing until his brother reminded him of the power inside of him. Krishna remembered he was divine and won the fight. But with power comes responsibility. The snake asked, "Are you going to punish me for being exactly how you created me?" Krishna realized that he had some responsibility for the very evil that he was fighting. And we encounter that often in our lives. Often it's easier to ignore our power and our responsibility, and like Krishna, to live off the fat of the land. But when a crisis hits, sometimes our true power and our true responsibility is revealed. May we use it wisely. But it can be confusing. It's often hard to know who your friends and enemies are. With this, let us sing verse 3. Sometimes a friend will let you down, and enemies are kind. By striving to love everyone, we live the life divine. And now a story from Norse mythology.
All right, I'd like to introduce Clarissa Bodman and Charles Sterner, Molly Spall, and Thomas Fowler. And they're going to do a skit about Thor, Loki, Grid, and Gerard.
A long time ago in Norway, there were gods and goddesses who could go anywhere they wanted, except the Ice Kingdom. But one god, Loki, the trickster, had an idea.
I will make myself look like a hawk and spy on the kingdom.
And so he went over there and flew and looked all around, but then he landed in a trap. And he said,
Let me go. Let me go. There's no such thing as a hawk that talks. Who are you? I am Loki. I will kill you unless you tell Thor to come here without his hammer.
Now Thor was the strongest of gods. He was the god of thunder. He had a magic hammer that made him unbeatable. But without the hammer, Gerard the frost giant might be able to beat him. Gerard made Loki send a message that the Frost Kingdom had invited him to make peace, and that Thor should come and leave his hammer at home. And Thor said,
I do not
like.
to travel without my hammer, but I trust Loki.
Okay, so put your hammer down. Thor traveled to the edge of the Ice Kingdom, and he was very cold, and he stopped at the home of the ice giantess Grid. She let him warm up by the fire and gave him directions to Jared's house. But before he left, she said,
Please wear these gloves. They are heavy, but they will keep you warm.
and so Thor went to Gerard's house, and Thor threw a ball of fire at him. But because Thor was wearing thick gloves, he was able to pick up the ball and throw it at Gerard, and the ice giant melted, and Thor and Loki were able to escape. Thor trusted Loki, but did not realize that Loki was operating in his own self-interest. The real hero of this story is Grid, the ice giantess, who helps the cold stranger at her door. In world politics, the friends and allies mass are easily interchanged. Russia is now helping us fight a foe that we once empowered to fight them. It's hard to know who people really are behind their masks. The truth is, we are all of our masks. Different aspects of ourselves come to the front. And also, like Loki, we can take on forms that are strange to ourselves and see how they fit. But once we take on that mask, it affects who we are. Last night, I went to the Halloween party here as a hippie. This morning, I am wearing a costume. Think about what you wore last night. Were you a witch or a swordsman? A goblin? What evil or good did you take on to yourself and display? Let us sing verse 4. Sometimes we are a looking glass, reflecting all we know, and other times we wear a mask and hide our holy soul. Joseph Campbell wrote about the masks of God all around the world. He often tried to remove the cultural mask of various gods and goddesses and show what was common to all humankind. Who are we? Hero, victim, villain? We are all three. Who are we? We are donkey, we are prophet, we are king, we are angel. We seek both power and meaning inside and outside of ourselves. Sometimes it's personified as God or demon. Sometimes it's psychoanalyzed as impulse or conscience. Sometimes moralized as good and evil, or rationalized as ethics or expediency. Whatever form it takes, whatever mask it wears, we have choices about what we perceive and what others perceive about us. What face will we carve in our jack-o'-lantern? What portion of our inner glow will we display? Now please rise and join with singing me all 4 verses.
Seen the face of God, or heard the voice divine. You'll find it where you seek it not, at unexpected times. Your deepest thought and highest truth, and love that will forgive. Mighty God, inside of you inspiring you to live. Sometimes a friend will let you down, and enemies are kind. By striving to love everyone, we live the life divine. Sometimes we are a looking glass, reflecting all we know, and other times we wear a mask and hide